Hey, the car guy here. Still messing with this old Accord. This video is going to cover strut and spring replacement. Word of caution, very dangerous to do this. You might be better off and wise to remove the struts and springs from the car as an assembly, as I will show you. Then take the assembly to a shop that has a proper spring compressor to compress the springs so that you don't get hurt. Especially on Hondas. They have these really long, they have these really long, skinny springs. These are dangerous. And the crummy thing is these often break, which is why we're replacing them on this car. Please, please, please be careful. I'm going to show you how I do this, and it's relatively safe. I like to get my stuff out of the way first. And that would be these two fasteners.
Okay, when the compressor kicks on, there's no point in trying to talk, so we have voiceover. Once you get the upper bolt out of the wishbone, you want to wiggle it off the strut and then move it out of the way. And once you've got that out of the way, you want to remove the three fasteners in the strut tower. And I just let it drop. Be careful here because of brake lines and wires and stuff. Now you can just remove the strut from the vehicle, take it over to the vise, put it in the vise, and begin to install your spring compressor. Because the spring was broken, it was very difficult to try to find a good spot to put the compressor. You can see here the finished thing and the fact that it's broken. See the extreme angle of the compressor on the right? You want to try to avoid this, but at the same time you want to put the compressors on opposite sides of the spring. So this is a situation where it was lose-lose. So run them down a little bit at a time on either side, and the only thing you want to do is you just want to compress the spring just enough to where you can get the strut top off, so where when you take the upper nut off, it doesn't come popping off the top. You don't want to compress it any more than you have to. So here I was checking the upper strut mount to see if it was loose enough. Now I'm going to remove that nut, spin that off there, and luckily it did spin off. If not, you can put tension on it by loosening up the compressors a little bit. And eventually it comes loose. And there it is. Take the top off, set it aside. Now I start to take the components off here and I think better of it. I think I should probably loosen this up first and get the spring off before I start putting my hands in there, and it was a really good idea. Really good idea.
See what I mean by dangerous? I'm broken. This piece here is actually destroyed. I'm gonna try to reuse it, but really I shouldn't because it's destroyed. Oh, look at that. It's bent. That's an unhappy strut right there. Very unhappy. When the spring starts rubbing up against it and stuff, it's curtains. You can tell left from right on these things because there's a little L here and a little R on the right one. That way you can tell which one goes to which side. Yeah, you're still good. I'm going to pause for some remanufacturing. because I know there's no way in heck I'm going to find one of these today. No way. Silicone, I take it. Right around the top where the spring sits. Don't be afraid. My reasons for this will become clear later. But for now, goop it up.
After you get the upper strut mount all nice and lubed up, install your new coil spring onto the strut. And try to position your spring compressors in such a way to where they remain vertical on the spring. You don't want them to move to one side. If they do and they start to go sideways, then you run into trouble like we did earlier as we were taking the old spring off. So make sure that these are vertical when you install them. Now here's where I stop, and I'm supposed to tell you that these are not vertical, so I'm going to take them off. As you can see that they're touching in the back, they slid over the spring, and I'm going to reinstall them, but in a different way. I put one of them upside down, and it seemed to keep them in place and keep them vertical, as you can see. So just like when I removed the old spring, you only want to compress it just enough so that you can get the strut top back on. And you do this by working back and forth from one compressor to the other until it gets to a point where you can reinstall the upper strut mount. And you can see it's not quite flat on the top, so I just run down the one side, make it flat, because that strut needs to pass through as easily as possible, that upper piece. And try to get where the spring sat before, you'll see an indentation in the rubber. Try to get that as close as you can. So I wasn't quite there. I'm running them down again, just a little bit more, to try to get just enough to where I can get the nut onto the top. And my impact was stuck, but the truth is once you get this nut on, you're safe. The spring won't be able to decompress. This is the way it is when it's on the car, so poof, we're safe. Now I can remove the compressors themselves. I'm trying to be cautious here because I don't want them to come flying off, but the danger is pretty much over at this point. Once you get that nut on at the top, you're pretty much home free. Now I can take it over to the car and install it from underneath. Once you get it up in there, run the nuts back on. You can reinstall your wishbone. And this is the tricky part. You see that little peg there? It's supposed to fit in that crack in the wishbone. This is why you lube the upper strut mount. You can grab a large pair of channel locks and you can twist the whole strut till it gets to a point where you can just slide the wishbone up and it fits into that slot. This is really important. This is the way the strut is designed, and this is what holds it in place. Also, there's an indentation there that you'll need to hit in order to run this fastener in right here. Reinstall the brake line fasteners. Run those down. Sorry I didn't light this a little better, but you get the idea. Pushing through the lower bolt on the wishbone. I know that's not a hammer. You can yell at me. Now when you tighten this fastener here, the vehicle should really be on the ground with the weight on it, because if you run it down like I'm running it down here, that bushing that it's in will get twisted when the weight of the car is on it. I've been yelled at about this before, but I do it anyway.
Well, that's pretty much the left side. There's really no difference on the right. Once again, I have to stress, be very, very careful when you're taking those strut assemblies apart. That spring has a great deal of potential energy and it can hurt you. I got lucky. Well, I hope this was informative and it gives you at least some perspective on how to replace springs and struts. If you have any questions, comments, you know where to put them. Text or video, or visit me, EricTheCarGuy.com. Just keep doing this, because you know what? It can be fun. Dangerous, but fun. Stay dirty, don't be dead.